You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and happy Thursday. Welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating. I love this show. We get so much great information, tips, and advice to help us meet that special person. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I'm pleased to be here with you today. And welcome to my co-host and friend, Lisa Manyoky.
Hi there. How are you? I'm telling you, you look so good today with your hair all dolled up and all.
Thank you. I actually just cut it right before the show. I'm always in there trimming away.
If I cut it, you would know. It would not look good.
Well, it's I always feel like if it doesn't work out, there's always a shorter haircut, right?
Oh, until you get to my length, and then we go bald or a buzz cut.
But yeah, you could straight up buzz cut. So no. Well, I'm so happy that you're here today. We have another wonderful guest who's joining us actually from New Jersey. So we've got three girls in the house in New Jersey, which I love. So Arlene Washburn is our guest. And before we bring her out, I always like to hear what Lisa Manyoky is up to over at Presence Intelligence. So do tell, please.
Okay, well, as we've discussed before, Presence Intelligence is the process of making sure that whoever you are on the inside is making its way to the outside, whether through behavior, attire, you name it. Because if there's a discrepancy between the two, then you'll feel it, and other people around you will feel it, and then you'll deter the best chance you have of meeting somebody who's well suited to you, and then finding someone who is for whom you are well suited. So I urge you to go to presenceintelligence.com/daters for information about how the process works.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa. And how's it going with the daters? How's it going with dating with you in general? Anything you want to share?
I think COVID slows down the process in general, even though the world's opening back up again. It's just made it easy to drop off. It's still harder to get places. So it's kind of slow, but I haven't really been pushing it either. How about you?
I haven't left the house. I'm the wrong person to ask. Everything that's going on in this house is going on behind this green screen. So, yes, but I am looking forward to some families coming to visit for Memorial Day. So that'll be exciting.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, everybody's getting vaccinated. I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people are vaccinated and more comfortable. I do believe restrictions here in Jersey are starting to get a little bit lighter, so that people can congregate again and be together, which I can't wait for. Plus, it's summertime, Oh,
I know. I was saying on an earlier show, I started my summer routine regimen, and I'm not dating, but I'm going to have myself dating ready. I'm doing my push-ups, my sit-ups, my bicycles, my crunches, and I got a little log that I'm keeping it all in so I can keep myself on point.
Well, are you thinking about restarting?
No, actually with this platform, there's no way I can. This is like a 7-day-a-week thing. I wish it was just as simple as I just show up, but there's so much work that takes place behind the scenes, and now we have 15 shows. So,
and there's no fans who have written to you yet and said, "Ooh."
Oh yes, sir. First of all, I've gotten pornographic pictures. So those of you who are out there who are blocked, I don't want any pictures of anyone. Keep your pictures to yourself.
Serious?
I am totally serious, and I am not happy. But yes, I've gotten marriage proposals. People want to date me. I actually had to block people from calling me on WhatsApp. They just calling and calling and calling, and then they put messages. It's like, sorry, thank you, not interested. So, but yes. So there's that. Isn't that exciting?
I guess the price of celebrity status, right? Or something. I don't know. Wow.
I don't know. But I do want to bring our guest out. We have never had someone who is actually a science-based relationship coach. So science-based. I think that's really neat. Let's bring out Arlene Washburn to the program. Hi, Arlene.
Hi, Jersey in the house.
I think we have, there's Jacalyn, you're in the south, I'm in central, and then Arlene, I think you're north.
Northwest, yep.
So we've got the whole state covered today.
Absolutely.
So Arlene, tell us about Get Real, Get Love. And then I want to talk about the whole science-based relationship coach.
All right. Well, as I don't know if you know this, but I started out as a matchmaker. And what I realized was that I was working with these amazing people, but they were not relationship ready. And I heard you talking about getting relationship ready, but that is not so much a physical thing, although that helps. It's really about, getting your mind right and getting past all this, a bunch of stuff that I'm sure we'll get into. So I developed a coaching program called Get Real, Get Love to help people get relationship ready. It's a 12-week program, and it really takes them through a transformation that, when the feedback I was getting was like, oh my gosh, this is affecting my entire life, not just the dating side. So my background is from the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm used to, and I know you're a doctor. I'm not sure what kind of doctor you are, but I'm used to having evidence-based, research-based information to then, instead of giving anecdotal advice to people, I like to base it on the research and good research. So that's what it's all about. The Get Real, Get Love is really just a coaching system.
I like that and I appreciate it. So I'm an academic, so my background is all about research. And so I love that. I'm in alignment with you on that.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you think about, you mentioned that you were a matchmaker.
Yeah.
So would you share with our audience, just in case they're not quite sure, what is the difference between a matchmaker, a dating coach, a relationship coach?
Great question. So I started out as a matchmaker, and I had a really great, thriving business in Bergen County, New Jersey. And then I took a sabbatical to go work at the Matchmaking Institute, which at the time was the only state licensed school for matchmaking in the country. And people come from all over the world to get certified. So I actually worked there and taught matchmaking. And matchmaking is basically a process that you take people through to match them with an appropriate match. And you're basically doing all the vetting, all the recruiting, and a lot of times they offer a concierge service where they're putting the dates together and all that good stuff. So that's a process. So you'll find that there are a lot of single matchmakers, right? Because this is something that matchmakers can do easily. But the coaching aspect is really about helping people have a better relationship with themselves, and therefore figure out who they are and be able to then attract the person that is a good fit for them, and getting them out of their patterns, which we all have, right? And, I always say, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because when you start dating the right people, they're not going to be the same guys that you're used to. It's going to be different. So it's going to feel weird. So that's what a dating coach does. And I should say dating coaching is really geared towards singles, and relationship coaching can be both single and folks that are already in relationships who are trying to navigate and do it well, because, it's an ongoing process. But it's not hard. I hate when people say that relationships are hard, because I really don't believe that. I think it just takes effort.
Something that just came up, and I love those points, on the last show, my guest had this little thing on her desk, and it's actually a wand, and she refers to it as her magic wand. So we'd love to just wave this magic wand and have everything work out in our relationships. But to your point, it takes effort.
Yeah. And the relationships that are hard are the wrong ones.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, I have a relationship because I hold myself to this standard. If I'm going to teach something and, help people with something, I need to have reached, I've gone over the other end, and now I'm in a happy and healthy relationship for quite a long time now. And so I call it my love lab, because anytime I learn new information about how to navigate relationships, because there's always good stuff coming out, I incorporate it into my own personal, life. And then I see the results, or I see the results with my clients. I'm all about walking your talk.
And I can tell you now, I trained at relationship coaching for singles way back when, in 2007, I think, when Relationship Coaching Institute was the thing of the market. And then isn't it the Matchmaking Institute? Is that with Lisa Clampett?
That's the.
I'm really familiar with them. But I remember thinking, well, I did it to keep a pal of mine company, but it was so personally beneficial to go through a methodical program that really makes you dig, ask a lot of really important questions, prioritize, definitely break patterns. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how your program is structured, because I mean, I vouch for, I don't know your program, but you've been doing this a long time, because I'm familiar with your name. I think I've even corresponded with you historically, but
really,
a long time ago, maybe in the Matchmaker days. But tell us how your program is structured and what people can expect to accomplish by completing it.
Okay, so my online coaching program, the Get Real Good Love program, is really geared for women, because I think there is a difference in how you coach when you're working with men versus women. And it's more of a transformational program. So it starts out, with inner work and being intentional, getting to a point where you know what your wants and needs are, what are your core values, all that good stuff that is so important to clarify up front, so that when you are out in the world dating, that you have a good filter that you can utilize when you're dating men to see if they fit within the confines of what you're looking for. Because if you're going for everything, you're not going to get anything. You have to be very strategic. It's almost like marketing. You have to have your target market. But before you can do that, you have to see who you are and what are your needs in terms of a relationship and that compatibility. So I take people through a structured program. It's a 12-week program. It's available online. Typically, if someone's doing the program on their own, they'll have an initial call with me and they'll go through the program, and then a call at the end. And I always try to make sure that they're getting results, and I've worked with therapists, I've worked with doctors, it's something that even for people who study psychology, a lot of times we don't, you don't implement this when it comes to love, because there's so much misinformation about love, and there's so much misinformation about, or at least fantasies about, what we raise our kids on with these books that we read to them, especially to the girls. So yeah, it's interesting. It's structured, but it's also deep, and it's very transformational. And I've gotten tremendous results. And of course, I'm my first customer, right? Because I was divorced before I got married to my current husband. So it works. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, but what's the difference? So if somebody's going through it on their own, as opposed to working with you, is one better than another?
I mean, obviously working with me would be better, because then I can give you a lot of feedback, but part of it is just you learn something and then you have exercises and you have a whole week to implement. The challenge that I see with most things as far as education goes is that people take in information, but they don't incorporate. And for me personally, even with my own ongoing learning, right? Because we're a work in progress till we die, and I'm constant. That's my one addiction, is learning. I always try to incorporate what I learn. And so it's important for me, for my clients, that if they're going through an online program on their own, for example, that they're taking it 1 week at a time. So we drip the content so that they can incorporate the information. And of course, they always have access to email and contact us. We have a membership site where they can do that. And we can give them feedback if they have questions. Occasionally, I launch it live, and I actually do the program live, where they still go through the modules, they still go through the exercises, and then every week they meet with me as a group, and we go through whatever trials and tribulations. But I've had people go through that program and literally meet someone within a few months and get engaged and get married and all that. I've had women, I had a therapist who took the program. She's like 47 years old, had never been on vacation by herself, and actually felt like this, so empowered to just go take a vacation on her own. She went to an island on one of those resorts, and she said all the guys were checking her out and all this stuff. I mean, it was like, 47 years old. Yes, you have permission to go on vacation by yourself, So it's a lot more than just the dating and relationship aspect. It's more of like it's more inner work than anything else.
Okay.
I love the fact that you just mentioned about going on vacation. I know women right now, nameless, who will not go on vacation by themselves, will not go out to dinner by themselves. It's just, I've never had that challenge. Maybe it's not a challenge, but for me, I feel like you have to enjoy your own company first before you can really enjoy someone else's.
Absolutely. And build up the confidence, right? Because I know it could be, it could feel overwhelming. I remember when I first started doing public speaking, I would, just get so nervous. I would literally get sick. And then I started doing it and more. And then your body, you can only shock yourself once, and then it just becomes more familiar. And that's what I tell people, like, take yourself out on dates. Like, that's one of the things that I always encourage. If you're a single woman, go to a nice restaurant and don't sit at a table, sit at the bar and have a dinner there when things go back to normal, that is, and make eye contact and stop burying yourself in a book or something to distract. No, look around. I used to do it all the time as a matchmaker. Matchmakers are out there recruiting. So we're at bars, we're at restaurants, and I walk up to people. Sometimes I'm out with my husband. If I see a guy who looks great, he has no ring on, I'll go right up to him, and people must think we're swingers, but he's like, go ahead, do your thing, because he's super confident. A man who's married to a matchmaker has to be super confident, because I always say that I do the first dates for you. So like I get to meet these guys and see what's redeeming qualities there are. But yeah, it's a fun thing. It's a fun career.
What's the age of people who you're working with most of the time?
Okay, so I'm 54. So most of my people are mid to late 30s and up, and with the coaching particularly. And I work, for some reason, I get a lot of academics and I get a lot of doctors and attorneys. And my biggest success story that I always talk about is a woman that I worked with who she was a coaching client. And I actually introduced her, matched her, because I always have that option, right? Since I'm connected to thousands of matchmakers all over the world. And she came to me, and we were doing a little coaching, and then I introduced her to someone. She didn't want to go on a second date. And thank God I was in her life, and I talked her out of her own way. And 9 months later, they got engaged. I got to go to her wedding, and she got married for the first time at the age of 60.
Oh, wow.
Wow, what a great story. I love it. Congratulations. That must feel really
Thank
good.
you. Oh, it feels phenomenal. That's not the only wedding I've been to, but yeah, she looked amazing. She loved this. I mean, she's still happily married. I stay connected to these people. They're like family. Yeah, and if I hadn't been there, she would not have gone on a second date.
Why is that?
I think that people put too much emphasis on a first date. Most people are terrible first daters. Like, they just suck, especially men. They get nervous, and he really was smitten when he met her. And she was a little bit reluctant. He's from Germany with a real heavy German accent. So he seemed a little stiff and like a staunch kind of guy, but he wasn't, because I get to, like I said, I go on the first dates for you. So I get to know people deeply. And this gentleman was sexy and fun, and he had all these great qualities. But when you're nervous, you're going to show up and you're not going to present as well as you could over time. So I always say, never use a first date as a judgment call unless somebody totally repulses you or gives you the heebie-jeebies and goodbye, right? Or they smell, or whatever things that you need to rule out. But other than that, if there's maybe something there, absolutely give them a shot.
All right. Great advice. We have to take a break, but I'm loving this conversation. And Arlene, I want to say, I can tell how much you love what you do, because you are all lit up and you're so passionate about it. We've had some other folks on the show not quite as passionate, and Well, are you alive? I don't know. No, but you are loving what you do, and that totally comes through. So thank you again for being here. We're going to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. Stay with us on It's All About Dating. We'll be right back.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at DianeFloydBoehm.com. Visit DianeFloydBoehm.com. That's DianeFloydBoehm.com.
I don't think men are superficial idiots, that their brains are wired to be visual. I'm told I give great advice.
Nike Just Do It for exercise, I think really applies to sex, too.
I've coached hundreds of men and women.
I disagree with her where she's like, put it all out there on the first date. You know, an open book is not sexy.
Exactly. You know. Do you have relationship questions? Chances are one of my clients, or myself, or my friends have gone through the same thing, and I already made a video about it. So I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, Donna Barnes. I've made hundreds of advice videos based on real-life experiences so that you can make better choices.
In my upcoming Breakup Recovery Action Plan, there's going to be checklists and quizzes.
Best information that I've ever experienced or acquired. If you're stuck and can't move forward or let go, my action plan is built to help you. Subscribe to my channel. I'll help you have better relationships.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jacalyn. Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents A Better You. And here to tell us more is the creator of A Better You, Al Cini. Al, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. It's always a pleasure working with you. And everyone out there, you know, you might be a coach working with individuals professionally or personally, or you might be a consultant working with businesses, or you might be a trusted advisor specializing in an area like finance, let's say, or the law or healthcare. Whatever of those roles you relate to, you all have one thing in common, and that is you're working every day to help people become better versions of themselves, a better you. And Dr. Jacalyn's A Better You program is an opportunity for you to express your expertise in a particular area for 15 minutes in front of an audience of people who are looking for help from people like you.
Yep.
So, Dr. Jacalyn, maybe you can tell everybody how they can learn more about this.
It's so easy. You go to abetteryou.tv and you sign up to book your session.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating. My co-host over here, Lisa Manyoky, Presence Intelligence, and our guest over here, Arlene Washburn. She is the real deal. She has been a matchmaker, and she is helping people with their relationships based on science. And so I was reading through your profile, and one thing that really stood out to me, because I can relate to it, is women who are, successful in their career, doing well, but when it comes to men and relationships, it's the goose egg, a big zero. So there's several reasons for why that happens. But what have you found with all the women you've worked with? Is it a self-esteem issue? Is it just they've just given up? They attract the wrong people? What are your thoughts?
I think that there's a lot of confusion and a lot of misinformation out there. And, there's a lot of talk about feminine and masculine energy and all that stuff. So because I work with a lot of professional women who can relate to dealing with professional relationships, I kind of take that information and translate it into their relationships. So for example, and because I've been there and I was one of those women, right? I was a senior director in the pharmaceutical industry, and all the confusion about, like, can you bring the boardroom to the bedroom, so to speak? But so what I do is I translate. I say, okay, forget all that stuff. Make believe that when you meet someone that you're meeting a client, because that changes everything, right? When you meet a client, there's a certain level of care that you bring to the relationship and a certain level of making sure that you're not off-putting, right? Because if you come in as the executive who's in charge of everyone, you're going to be a little bit off-putting. That a lot of times your subordinates don't like you necessarily because you come in with that energy. But if you come in, like, I remember I used to meet with my clients at Pfizer, and I cared about what they were sharing with me. I wanted to understand what they were saying in order for me to service that account, or I would listen. A bunch of things that you normally would do to handle your clients with care, then that's something that these professional women can get behind and say, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? And then if that client, if let's say it's a first date and you're meeting a client, i.e. a guy, and he's not for you, then refer him to somebody else. This is something that girlfriends don't do. Sometimes you meet a great guy and he's just not for you, but you have a single girlfriend that could be a good match. That's what you should be doing, right? If women would do this more, there would be less single women out there. I'm a big fan of, like, refer him out or see if he knows someone that might be a better match for you, because maybe he's got the qualities that you're looking for, but he's not physically your type. I always say birds of a feather flock together. So if he's got great qualities, chances are his friends are going to have similar qualities. And you have to be able to kind of transition that relationship to be able to get referrals from him. I mean, so there's just so many things that I would say that there's a misconception out there about how we're handling these situations. And I think once I put it in that term, then people can relate.
I think they're very valid points, because you know what? I was just thinking, Lisa, I don't recall ever referring a guy that I went out on a date with or dated a couple of times. I don't think I've ever referred anyone to another woman. Have you ever done that?
I don't think so.
All right. So
think about how great that would be. I mean, if you met someone and you said, oh my God, I think you're great, but I know Dr. Jacalyn. I would love to introduce you to her because I think you two would totally hit it off. You think a guy's going to be like, excuse me, no, he'll be like, oh, okay, cool. He'll accept that.
Yeah.
We should be referring more business to one another, so to speak. Refer those men out.
I think there needs to be a new affiliate program now. Imagine that. Add some incentive to it. Woo.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I've ever done it, though.
I've never even thought of it. It's crazy.
Or even women having parties where everyone has to bring a guy, a platonic friend who's a great match, but you can't, he's just not for you. Then you bring that guy to a party. You could do this on Zoom. I know everybody keeps talking about, oh, COVID. You could still date even during COVID. You could still meet people. And slow dating is actually great because it keeps people from jumping into anything physical quickly and actually getting to know that person to see if those people are aligned to your core values and all of the qualities that you're looking for before it gets to the physical aspects. Because once that happens, then things shift, and mostly with the women, in terms of your connection to someone that may not share that same connection to you.
Okay, so on that note, how long should a couple wait before they start swapping body parts?
Oh my God, I love that question. Okay, so the answer is, I'm going to answer like a lawyer. It depends. Now, truthfully, you want to be in a monogamous relationship with someone where you've already assessed that they meet the criteria that you're looking for, which is the part that people don't do, right? So you meet someone and you're like, oh my God, I'm so attracted. And the physical starts to happen right away. And then later on, you start to find out, oh my God, this guy has this issue and that issue. And now you're emotionally attached. And now you're basically on drugs, right? Because once you develop that physical connection and those chemicals are going through your body, now you're essentially like a drug addict. You are like a drug addict, and you can't keep away from this person knowing that they're not right for you. So to answer that question, I would wait until you've gotten to know them, until you feel that it's a monogamous relationship, unless you're someone who's open to open relationships, polyamory and all that stuff, no judgment. But if you want a monogamous committed relationship, you need to establish that. And I will tell you that there are studies that show that men's testosterone level drops after he has sex with a woman. So if he's not already emotionally attached to you, then you're not going to turn him on as much. Secondly, there's another study out there that shows that a man may find a woman less attractive after he has had sex with her. So you run the risk of these things happening, right? If the guy's not really into you. And of course, a lot of guys are, very likely not to turn away sex, even if they're not that into you. So I hope that answers that question. It's kind of vague, but.
No, it's. I don't think it's vague. I think it's really smart because chemistry is not discriminating. It's talk about no judgment. Chemistry it's there sometimes with the wrong person. And you're right. Once you're in it, it's like quicksand, man. You are going down fast. And then before you know it, you say, "Oh my goodness, this was really exciting in the beginning." We used to call them, this one matchmaker buddy of mine, fizzlers that were or sizzlers that became fizzlers. I love it. Really hot to trot in the beginning, and then you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?" And oh no.
Yeah.
Yes, they have like a clinger. Klingon or whatever it's called. You're like, I made the biggest mistake. I don't know what I was doing. So in reference to that, because we've had some matchmakers on here, some dating coaches, and we always ask about the 3-date rule, which is from a different perspective. But I've been a person who, and I'm just being honest, one date, I'm really not interested, and it's painful for me to go to the second date. So usually I say goodbye up to the first date, and I get a lot of flack from men for that. So it seems like I'm the one who needs to change.
Definitely, because you're going to miss out on some great guys. You just give them a chance, because it takes a while for people to feel comfortable. And if a person feels comfortable, they're going to show up differently. And first dates are nerve-wracking for so many people. And you're an attractive woman and you're sexy, and that could automatically just throw the guy off right there, and not know how to act, oh my God, so definitely give him more than one, unless he absolutely repulses you, like you get the heebie-jeebies, you get some kind of feeling. Always trust your instincts as far as that goes, but don't be quick to throw people away, because you're going to miss out on the gems that are out there. And then it's just going to prolong if you don't want to be single, because some people do. If you don't want to be single, give people a chance. Men are terrible first daters, I have to say.
Arlene, that's really good direction. And so when I do get back out there, which I don't have any plans this year, but who knows, I'll remember that. A question that I have, obviously your time is limited, and you're so good at what you do. Is there an application process, or how does it work? Can just anyone work with you?
Yeah. So I'm very selective about my clients. And speaking more on the coaching side, but what even more selective if I am taking a client for matchmaking, because I want to make sure that they're coachable. You're not going to have success as a matchmaker with someone who is not coachable. And if they're having an issue, because most of my clients, to be honest, have been successful, attractive people. So if they're having issues with connecting with the right partner, it's an internal, it's an inside job. It's not everybody else. You know, no matter what anybody says, we are all a work in progress until we die. And so if someone's coachable and they're looking for matchmaking, and I have capacity because I limit the amount of people I work with one-on-one, then I will take them on. And yes, there is an application that people need to fill out on my website. And it's so much better because then I am fully present, fully there for them. And I know that I can help them. You know, like I said, I got that woman married at the age of 60. I was working with a client who was a therapist on TV who was having issues. And from my coaching, I was able to get her to give her now spouse an opportunity. I went to her wedding as well. And here she's a therapist on TV, you know, Princeton University graduate. She actually got married at Princeton University. They have a chapel there. But it's, you know, like you can't see your own blind spots. Everybody needs a coach. I use coaches all the time myself for business or whatever. People need that kind of help to sort of change at what they're doing so that they can have more success. Otherwise, it's doing the same thing over and over again. And we all know, you know, it's really important to make those shifts and to know that you're going to be uncomfortable going in, right? That you are going to now break a pattern, and therefore you're going to feel very uncomfortable in the beginning. But when you know to expect that, then things start to change for you. So that's what I would say.
Well, are you working strictly in New Jersey or New York, or what's your perimeter?
So I work internationally. I have a client in Germany. I just had a client in Australia because I do everything on Zoom now. And I used to live, I know you guys know Bergen County, New Jersey, right? I used to have an office in Ridgewood, New Jersey, right on the main road there. And I moved out to the country. So I have this amazing life, which is why I only take a limited number of clients. I'm out in the country. I have a river in front of my house, you know, 5 acres. I don't have neighbors. I mean, like, I love my life. So I only let people in who I think are going to be successful and are not going to be like what I call blood money. You know, it's like I take out a client and then I just want to kill myself because I can't work with them. So yeah, so I work internationally, and I have a client in Hoboken. I have another client in Princeton University. So Princeton, I should say, not university. So yeah, with Zoom, you can work with people anywhere, really. So that's a beautiful thing.
Now, are you representing women, or because some of the matchmakers we've had in the past, everybody has their own style, but many of them work with the men. They're the payors. And then women can be in their database for free. So what's your setup like?
So I would say 80%, if not 90% of my business is coaching and coaching women. And then most of the time, I just had a client from Taiwan who I was also matchmaking. But most of my clients are men for matchmaking. Most guys are really good with coaching, so that's already built into the matchmaking. But I always find that it's more successful to work with women on a coaching basis. Yeah, so that would be the bulk of the business that I do these days. And I'm about to be a grandmother this year, so I'm going to be taking even less clients so I can have time for my grandchild.
Look how happy you are just saying that. I love it.
I'm excited.
Yes. Well, we're happy for you. I think there have been a lot of really insightful comments that you've made today that we haven't heard before. And so what I feel like you have a specialty in that you really base what you do on research. And I think that's, you know, you should be applauded for that, because that takes a lot of effort, right? Instead of you just doing your coaching and throwing something out there. It's like you're studying, you're researching, and you're basing what you're doing on the findings.
Absolutely. Like when I took a sabbatical from my business after I closed down the office in Ridgewood, I became the CEO of the Matchmaking Institute. And one of the things, and Lisa did agree with me on this. I mean, she wanted it as well, was to bring in a coaching program, because I kept saying these matchmakers are not going to be successful with their clients without some coaching as well, to really help people become relationship ready. So we were fortunate enough to bring on Dr. Terry Orbuck, and I structured the whole deal with her to come in as the coach for coaches. I mean, she's a professor. She's someone who has been running a study for over 30 years that's funded by the National Institutes of Health. So it's based on research and it's based on science. And it's really teaching people about how to put people together, because it is a puzzle. There is so much that goes into it. And you really need to connect the dots between their background, their family background, how they were raised, the relationships they have with their parents, without being a therapist. I'm not saying you're going to turn into a psychiatrist or whatever, but you need to be able to connect those dots, because a lot of what we do are patterns that we developed early on in our lives. And then, when you hear about the parents and then you look at what they've done in their own life, I've met with women who are like 70 years old, where they, I always put people through a 2-hour intake process. And I remember speaking with her and I said, so this is my process. It's going to be 2 hours and we're going to talk about a lot of things, including, the beginning, your parents. She's like, I'm 70 years old. Why would I need, that's so behind me. And I was like, okay, but that's my process. So we went through that whole thing. By the end of the interview, she was crying. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe I've turned it to my mother or whatever. No, because we don't stop, especially women. We don't stop to really look internally. We're so busy doing this and helping that one and running around, and especially single women are habitually busy. They fill up all their time, which is part of the problem of finding someone. Been there, done it. Trust me. I'm talking about me because I lived through this. I would fill up every minute of my day and then wonder, yeah, of course, when do you have time to date when you're like so busy? So first thing I do when I work with a busy client, it's like, okay, we're going to carve out some time in your calendar for online dating, for taking yourself out on dates or going on a date. And you're not going to do it when the guy shows up, because then you're going to resent him. We want to do it beforehand, because this is, that's part of the self-love and self-care. So that's one of my things that we do.
Oh my gosh, it would be great to work with you. It's I love your approach.
Yeah, and there's no question that the science part, it sounds as if you're using science to justify your recommendations, which is very different from saying that you have a scientific formula that will guarantee a result.
Right.
Because that's not, there's got to be some magic in this process. It's not all about lining up a bunch of particulars and making certain that they fit. That we have to allow room for that. But am I correct in understanding that you're using science, like understanding the chemicals of chemistry and the phases of a relationship, because there are fixed phases. So is that what you mean by your science?
Yeah, it's all of the above. It's understanding the chemistry, understanding the results that come out of these research studies. For example, the part about a man not finding someone as attractive after he's had sex with it. And if you hear that as a woman, you'd be like, okay, that gives me pause, because now I no longer think that having sex with the man is actually going to make him more attractive to me. I want to hold off until the emotions are there, so that to avoid this other thing from happening. I just, for me, being an incredulous person, like, I don't believe something until you show me the proof. Like, that's just how I am, because I came from the pharmaceutical industry. Maybe I spent 20 years in the pharma industry. You have to do studies. You have to see the results. You want to see outcomes, evidence-based information. So for me, it just became a natural thing that if I'm going to say something to you, I want to tell you why. because once you understand and you can accept the explanation and the science behind it, then you don't have to argue with it and say, well, I'm just going to do it my way or blah, 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 and of course, everything is depending on the person and all that, because there's a lot of variables. But at least if I say something, then you can accept it based on the science. And every day there's more data coming out. People's brains are being attached to machines to see what's happening. So this stuff is they haven't even scratched the surface on this stuff. So I'm constantly reading, constantly learning. I find it fascinating. It's like my favorite pastime.
I do too. Plus, it puts you in a better position to be in command.
Yeah.
I find that when you understand what's, like you had said earlier, that when the chemicals are in the mix, it's like you're a drug addict. And that's true. They mimic the results of cocaine. Yeah. So before you know it, you are schnockered. And then, oh my goodness, now what? So as long as you understand what can happen, it certainly gives you a good reason to resist or to postpone until you have a real clear idea to strike a good balance between information and fact and then the goo.
Yeah. Also, to that point, if someone is already in that state of being a drug addict, but now they need to end this relationship because it's toxic and it's not good for them, well, a lot of people want to maintain a friendship, which can be had after you've neutralized the whole situation. But if you're ending a relationship, think about it this way. If you're addicted to someone, or you're addicted to a drug and somebody puts it in front of you, what do you think you're going to do? Therefore, if you want to become neutral about a relationship, then you need to stop communicating, stop following them on social media, and do all the things to eliminate that out of your presence so that you can detox from the relationship. And when you've reached a point of feeling neutral, then you could contemplate having a friendship.
Or not.
Or not. Exactly.
Right. It's time to walk away. Yes.
Yeah.
This is a great discussion. We have a question from someone in the audience. So we're just going to take the question and then we have to go to a quick break. So from Twitch, we have, so you're saying back in the old times in regards to dating and the like, things were a lot easier for women.
Okay. I didn't say that, but that is a good point and a good question. So yes, things were easier back in the day because there were roles. Nowadays, things are very complicated because all of the traditional roles no longer exist. And so how do you navigate that? Well, you navigate it by first understanding what your needs are. And then as you develop a relationship, negotiating what the roles are. Don't assume that because, you were raised by parents that were X, Y, and Z, and this is how they were, that other people had the same experience. So therefore, like for my relationship, for example, my husband and I negotiate our roles and our domains, which means like, this is his domain, this is what he does and what he's responsible for. And by the way, even if he's responsible for something, I always say thank you. And he always says thank you. Like literally, just a few minutes ago, I was downstairs. He's actually technically retired, but I was downstairs and he had eaten a bowl of cereal, and I grabbed the bowl in the living room and brought it into the kitchen to put in the dishwasher, and he said thank you. He doesn't take anything for granted, and I don't take anything for granted. Why? Because we talk about this. It's not just automatically. We actually talk about it, and I always say to him, I appreciate that you say thank you and that you appreciate what I do, even if it's just like stuff that we expect from each other. And I do the same with him. But yes, things were easier back then because there were roles and people sort of fit into these roles and they kind of knew what to expect. But nowadays things have changed. There's been a big shift. More women are getting an education. Women are controlling money, which, we've been doing for a long time, but actually acquiring a lot more money, running businesses, being busy, and don't necessarily have an expectation to be home with the children. So you negotiate with someone to say, hey, I'm really the breadwinner here. Are you willing to stay home? And some guys aren't willing to stay home, and that's okay if that's the kind of relationship you want to have. So that does add a complexity to things, but it's doable between consenting adults. As long as you're communicating and negotiating your positions, you're good to go. I hope that answers that question.
Yes, that was an excellent answer. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break and hear from a couple of our sponsors. Stay with us here on It's All About Dating. We'll be right back. Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back. Here we are on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating. My co-host Lisa Manyoky and our guest Arlene Washburn, who is giving us so much valid insights and great information. We really appreciate you, Arlene.
Thank you.
And I do have to say, I agree about that as far as gender roles. I'm not saying that they're better or worse, but they certainly did muddy the waters when things were far more defined and specific a long time ago. There were less questions about who does what, who initiates what, who earns what, who pays for what. It's definitely hard, much harder, I think, now.
Yeah. Plus the finance piece of it too, knowing that you were going into a relationship because, not only actually a lot of it wasn't for love. A lot of it was for financial stability and finding a good spouse that was either a really good mom for your kids or B, a good provider. And those things have changed. And you notice when the economy does well, the divorce rate goes up because people are financially stable and able to take care of themselves. When the economy goes down, divorce rates go down because, there's that fear of being out there on your own and not having the financial stability. I've done a lot of work in the divorce space.
I lived in it.
Me too.
It was financially annoying. Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
So without mentioning any names, there's obviously a very famous couple, very rich couple who are getting divorced, and some interesting arrangements that had been made. And I thought that was very insightful. That one weekend a year. Is that what I read? That for one weekend a year, there was the ability for person A to go meet with an old girlfriend. You following me? Do you know who I'm speaking about?
I know there's a big divorce happening right now, and that they had an agreement that they devised on their own. And it's probably going to be the biggest divorce ever in terms of, are we talking about the same thing?
But not,
Yes,
not the financial piece. You're talking about the visitation schedule, right, Jacalyn?
Yes. So the wife agreed that the husband could have visitation with a former lover, girlfriend, once a year, which I thought wasn't it just one weekend a year or something?
For a week, and I'm thinking, who agrees to that? I mean, no.
I have to get caught up on this one.
I just heard this information today. Has it been proven that that's true? It's not fake news, is it?
Well, no, apparently he was interviewed in the 90s and he disclosed it to the world that he had this relationship that his wife had agreed to. But what I'm saying is that it was only for one weekend or 1 week. Like, why would that other person even agree to that? The third person.
Like a hall pass?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Well, you know what? Every time I turn around, I hear about polyamory. Like that is a huge thing right now. And I think it's mostly like the younger generation is really driving that of having multiple partners and being open about it because they don't believe in monogamy. I personally don't think that works for the long haul because I think ultimately somebody's going to feel slighted, you know? But who knows? We'll see what happens. I mean, I know that I feel that humans can be monogamous. I don't believe that humans are, including men, because everybody wants to say, oh, men can't be monogamous. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I think that they can make that commitment. And I'm not frowning on anyone who wants to be polyamory and have, basically what it means is just having multiple partners and they all know about each other. And, they have whatever arrangement. But I was listening to an interview about that. I think it was like the Red Table Talk. And it was so confusing. And like, it just, to me, it didn't seem that I don't think it's going to be very successful. I think people will ultimately try that. And maybe if you do it in your 20s, great. And then by the time you're in your late 30s and 40s, you're going to want to have the monogamous relationship. That's my personal opinion anyway.
We have another really great question from, and let's see, how do you say this name? Colierton? How would you say it? Colierton. Collerton, thank you. Do women still expect chivalry nowadays, or is that considered a bad thing since it can be classed as benevolent sexism? Some women I know expect such behavior from men, but others can't stand it. I love this question. I think my mom and I were having a conversation about it because and again, where am I going? I'm in the house. But I love chivalry. And I remember last year before I retired from my corporate job, men would stop holding doors, like guys on the sales team or the people you work with. They used to hold the door and then it stopped for the most part. And I like a door being held open.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I think that it's a great thing. And okay, so this will be my opinion. There's no science here, but I don't believe that women don't enjoy chivalry. And if they do, if they really, really don't enjoy it, I think there's some kind of work that needs to happen there about self-love, because chivalry is essentially common courtesy.
Yes.
Right? So why would you not enjoy someone being kind to you? If someone is kind to you and you can't tolerate that, and I know that this exists because I was just working with a client who could not handle, if a man was too nice to her, she couldn't handle it. Part of it came from that her father only gave her conditional love. And this is where that stuff ties in, right? Her dad would only give her love if she did everything that he wanted. So she didn't feel entitled to love and has not released that thinking, so she's not worthy, and therefore that translates into, well, if you're being too nice to me, I can't handle it because I don't deserve it. I have to do things for you to deserve, or I have to chase you. So I find it very challenging to accept that women don't want chivalry, because it is common courtesy and it's just someone being nice and doing something nice for you. And if you can't tolerate that, then you need to kind of look at yourself and figure out what your self-love is and your self-worth. That would be, it's a controversial opinion, but I'm a straight shooter. That's one thing about me. If you work with me, I'm straight shooter.
And chivalry is like, I remember this one woman having an absolute fit because somebody, an older gentleman called her dear. He was a lot older. It was definitely a generational thing, but I mean, she lobbed some horrible insults this way. So she had a real beef with that. But some women, I can do it myself. Sure, we can. But so what if I would hold a door open for a guy or an older gentleman or an older woman or help them on with their coat. It's just a nice thing. But nobody needs to put food in my mouth. I mean, I went on a date once with a guy he's reaching across the table with a shrimp. I went, what are you doing? And I thought I could feed you. I said, that I can do myself.
Yeah.
You do not need to feed me a shrimp.
Yeah.
That was a little weird. So,
especially on a first date, I think that's more of an intimate act between two lovers who have been together for a long time. But
I didn't know if there was somebody over my shoulder that looked really hungry or something, you know.
Maybe thought you saw back shrimp messages. Well, you know what? Maybe our guest Collerton, maybe that person has had that experience where someone said, "Hey, listen, I don't like this. It's not working out for me." But one thing that does offend me or has offended me is when someone in business, someone I don't know, starts calling me babe. Hey, babe, what about this?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. I don't think so. I don't like it.
Well, terms of endearment should be utilized in intimate relationships. And when I talk about intimate relationships, that means a significant other, a parent, or your child. But to take those kinds of liberties, I think is a bit inappropriate unless you've reached that point in the relationship. But certainly not. It's a little bit patronizing, especially for you, Jacalyn, being a doctor. Working so hard to reach that level and then having someone call you babe. I don't think so. You know, that's just unacceptable. I think it's a bit much.
Yeah, it can feel slimy at the wrong time from the wrong person, right? And kind of, ew, right?
Yeah.
And funny, some of them are, unless you know, like I know one guy, he says that to everybody. So he doesn't intend to offend anybody. I told him to knock it off, but he's just a friend of mine. But I do know that some women just too soon. Just there's so many other ways to work. Yeah.
Right. Or maybe they just feel it's, like that's my feeling that you have to have a certain kind of relationship with me before you can start saying that to me. And I don't have that relationship. I'm in a business setting. I don't know you that well. I don't want to know you that well. And I really appreciate if you didn't call me that. So maybe that's my little pet peeve.
No, I think you're 100% right. And I think people need to be self-aware in how they communicate and how they treat people, and when it's appropriate or not to touch someone or where you touch them. I mean, there's a lot of social cues that certain people just don't have. And that also keeps people single because they don't understand how they come across. They don't know how to read body language and things like that. And, I'll keep picking on you, Dr. Jacalyn, but because you're a beautiful, sexy woman, but you are also smart and, you deserve a certain level of respect. And sometimes men misconstrued a woman who's attractive and sexy, because I used to get that all the time myself, where if I wore a nice skirt and I was showing some legs or whatever, and you're in the pharmaceutical industry and you walk in, that doesn't mean you can talk to me any old way or act like I don't know what I'm talking about, So yeah, people just have to respect. That's a whole other interview that we can go into.
Yeah, because what I want to just final comment on that comment is what I've found since I started doing this, which again was August of last year. I can't tell you, and if you're watching out there, men, I'm sorry, I can't tell you how many men tell me what I should be doing. You should try this and you should do that. And why are you doing it? So many men, countless men. Lisa, I think I've shared this with you. Sometimes I get emails from people, from guys saying, I really think you should change this. Your website should be this and this picture should be. No, please don't give me any more suggestions. I don't need them.
It's called mansplaining.
I mean, without even asking, I get people men constantly telling me what I should be doing. No, I don't need it. Thank you.
No, and you know what? This is an evolving business, and it takes time. So if people are coming in and focusing on one part, they have no idea what preceded now, which is quite frankly a huge accomplishment. I mean, you know, Arlene, you don't know Jacalyn that well, but she's done an awful lot within a very limited amount of time, has huge visibility, but it didn't happen overnight, and it certainly didn't happen because she wasn't aware of the details. Just that you can't address them all at one time. So, yes, enough of that, gentlemen.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You know, even as a coach, or even let's just say somebody wants to meet with me and they're doing an intake, before I give them feedback, I ask permission. Because if someone's not ready to receive what you have to offer, it's just going to get rejected. And why do that? It's patronizing. And it's funny that that should come from men, because men of all, you know, creatures out there, they hate unsolicited advice because it makes them feel like they're being criticized. So one of the areas, you know, whereas women with each other, we tend to give a lot of unsolicited advice, and that's a way to connect, and it's nurturing with one another. Whereas with the men, as soon as you give unsolicited advice, it's basically saying, okay, I'm doing this wrong. There's something wrong with me. I'm being criticized. So it's like ridiculous for someone to do that to you, especially when
I don't even know what their intentions are. We have another comment. Thank you very much for your thoughts, ladies. I'm going to continue being a gentleman. Yes, even though it may be out of fashion now.
It's not out of fashion.
We love it. You're doing the right thing.
Keep at it and come to the U.S.
Yes.
I know. Or we'll go visit in London. Yeah, definitely keep doing what you're doing. I think I haven't done a survey. I'd love to. I would bet 90% of the women, you know, if not more, enjoy chivalry. But to what extent that means, you know, if you're out on a date and the woman insists on paying, chances are she's really not that into you and doesn't want to feel like she owes you, or she, you know, so she'll pay for half. And if she insists, just let her do it. You know, you're not going to hear from her.
Right.
Yeah.
And no shrimp across the table on the first date. Okay.
And no touching. No, like touching. I've told these like guy all over. Hello, I don't even know you. Get your hands off me.
The last date. I went on a date before COVID, actually. First date, the guy's got his hand in my back pocket. I said, what are you, 12? I mean, dude, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah. You could really ruin your chances by doing too much too fast. And it's so inappropriate. Yeah. That'll kill you.
We just learned about the science behind the whole thing. Okay. I didn't know that. That is very valuable information. Arlene, I think you should repeat that information, because if you get in bed with somebody too soon, then that can ruin everything. So can you please? Yeah, let's hear that again.
And I'll preface by saying there are plenty of people who have had first dates and you know, where there's been sex on the first date and they've gone on to have successful relationships. But you do run the risk of, you know, if you're a woman and you have sex with a man very quickly, and he's really not that into you, but he's not going to, you know, not accept the sex, then you know, a man's testosterone, first of all, goes down after the sex. And there's a study that shows that the man could think that you are not as attractive as he thought you were after he's had sex with you. And so this, you know, this reputation that men have that they only want one thing and then they move on, it's biological, right? So if he's really into you and you have a monogamous relationship, then that's not going to happen anyway. So that's why, you know, you should look at the science before making decisions about sex.
And save yourself a lot of pain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like that analogy about the drug addict, because that's exactly right. When I was going through my marriage counseling, I was seeing a therapist who was an alcoholic, and he told me that he was seeing a therapist who said, listen, you have a problem. You need to stay out of bars, because if you keep going into bars and you're putting yourself in that situation, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to be drinking, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we have to really think about our own behavior and what it is we really want, but what we're putting out there, like presence, right? What your presence is.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. You know, if you're trying to end a relationship and, you know, you're like, well, I'll just have a little bit of this. And that means you accept a phone call or you, whatever, and you're still pining for this person. Or even if you don't want to be with them and you know it's wrong for you and you want to end it, but you allow him in little small doses and you're not past the point where you feel neutral, which is what we want to get to when we talk about emotional baggage. What we want to get to is neutrality, which means that you no longer feel that, oh, I screwed it up or he's the bad guy. You feel like we just didn't work out. It's, you know, you sort of, as Dr. Terry Orbuck, I want to give her credit for this because she always says, reassign blame to that third entity of we. The we is no longer, it just doesn't work out. So it's not about I messed it up or he messed it up. It's just us. We're just us together. We're not good. And once you can reassign blame like that and get to a place of being neutral and you're not having those feelings anymore and you could be around him if he's dating somebody else, then yes, you could be friends. But other than that, you need to take a break and just, you know, take yourself out of the
and
situation.
If you can't do it, now I just did this for a friend of mine. He gave me email access. This is a narcissistic, very destructive personality. I answered emails that basically said, shut it down. So that he was unable to insulate himself from contact with this personality. So if you can't do it, then have somebody help you until you get strong again. Right?
Yeah, not just strong, but the biggest issue with people who end up in relationships with narcissistic men, which is really narcissism is more prevalent with men. There are women as well, is because you don't have boundaries. And you having to jump in and do that for her is great if she can't, but she needs to figure out her boundaries and learn how to communicate in a way. You know, there's a whole system for communicating with narcissistic people, especially if you're going through a divorce. It is anything will land you back in the courthouse. So you really want to learn how to communicate properly with a narcissist. There is a communication system called DESC. And right off the top of my head, I can't remember what the acronym is for, but if you can Google that or send me a message on Instagram, I'm happy to send people information on learning how to communicate for that purpose, because it is challenging and it does take a while to purge yourself out of that feeling of, because they gaslight you basically and make you think things about yourself that aren't true. So yeah, that's a tough one.
Yep.
I think it's really interesting after the relationship with the narcissist ends and time goes on and the healing takes place. And then you look back and you say to yourself, what was I thinking? How could I have stayed in that situation? It's so obvious, but you don't want to see it. It's like you're addicted.
Yeah, and you are. That's exactly what it is. You're addicted, even if it's painful, and you're in that comfort zone because that's what you know. And I always tell people, like, if you have family members, like your parents and your siblings, who are good people and a little bit opinionated, you should hear what they have to say, because 9 times out of 10, they will say that guy is not right for you. And you're like, no, but you don't know, you don't understand. And then it's after you've come out of the fog, if they haven't had the opportunity to tell you, where they'll say, oh my God, we thought he was such a jerk. And you're like, why didn't you say something? Because you were so drugged up on love that we couldn't get through to you. But yeah, your family a lot of times will be on point with those things. So it's important to bring your significant other around your family. I know a lot of people don't like to do that. I mean, obviously, if you have a toxic family, it's a little challenging. So you have to first know that you have the right family to be able to help give you some feedback, because it does make a difference.
My family always called it, and I never listened to them. Every relationship, they're like, nope. And I just said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. They were right.
Mine was right too. Yep. I remember my daughter went up to one guy and she said, when are you going home? He just walked in the door. Right? Well, she was right.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank goodness for coaches like you, Arlene, because you are really, I mean, we've had a lot of people on this show, and nothing against anybody else who's on the show, but you're the real deal. And you really care, and you've got the experience, and you've got all the research and the pharmaceutical background that, all the years you spent there. So it's been a true pleasure having you here. And I hope you'll come back, because we're over our time. We could keep going on, but I have another show after this. So, Arlene, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, especially people in the radio who have not been able to see this banner going by?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way right now is to go to my Instagram account at Arlene Washburn, I should say. And you can find me on Facebook. I'm everywhere at Arlene Washburn. And I also spend a fair amount of time on Clubhouse. So if you go to Clubhouse, if you're there, follow me there, same name, and follow my club, the Get Real, Get Love Club. We have some great rooms every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to learn about love and relationships, please join me. And thank you so much, Jacalyn, for this opportunity. And Lisa, it's so great to reconnect with you.
I love that you guys had already somehow in the past an email or phone call or something. But yes, no, and I was going to ask you to talk about what you're doing on Clubhouse, because I know you're over there quite frequently. So, and I say this not every show, but if you're not on Clubhouse or you're not on Lunch Club, you are missing out on huge opportunities to network and meet people. And I have the relationships that I've built from Clubhouse. I can't even believe.
I know.
It's
incredible. And anyone who's anyone is on Clubhouse. It's so crazy. Like you can have a conversation with the guys from Shark Tank on Clubhouse. Like everybody's on there. You just search them. Everybody goes in typically with their own name. So if you're interested in following someone, but I am doing rooms under the Get Real, Get Love Club. So if anyone doesn't have an invitation to get into Clubhouse, just send me a DM on my Instagram and I will send you a link so you can get on Clubhouse, because Clubhouse is invitation only. And currently it's for iPhone users, even though I secretly have an Android and I have a secret Android account that I can get into Clubhouse with. But
are you on the beta? Are you in the beta testers? I saw that they're beta testing where you're already on with Android.
I've been on for like a few months. So I have like a secret account and then I use my iPad for my official account. But yeah, it's an incredible tool. And for business, for learning, for teaching, just be careful who you listen to, because I am a stickler for the information that people are pushing out. And I hate to see someone who's already single and maybe even suffering internally because they want to get out of being single, and then listening to advice that is so wrong. So please be careful who you listen to on Clubhouse, because everybody's an expert, but it is a great venue and I do recommend it. And if you need access, send me a DM and I'll send you a link to get into Clubhouse. That's
really nice of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, again, it's been a pleasure having you, and I'd love to have you on some of our other shows also. We've got, as I mentioned, 15 shows, but I have a story to tell, stories of hope, inspiration, overcoming adversity, business show. So I think you'd be a great fit. You really have a lot of value that you're bringing.
Thank you. Yeah, anytime. Just let me know. They wrote a really great article on the Bergen Record about how I met my husband. That's a whole story. You can Google it at nj.com, I think. But yeah, so I've got stories, so definitely let me know. I'm happy to come back. Thank you.
All right, I definitely will. I'll be in touch. Thank you again for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day or your evening. Bye, Arlene.
Bye, Arlene.
Bye.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yeah, she's lovely.
And just so bright and so communicative, and I love her presence, and she was just a fabulous guest. So I'm glad she was here today. I was trying to think how I connected with her. I don't know if it was Clubhouse or I was going to ask her, but she's out of the studio. So I just want to say thank you to you. I think that was a really great interview. I love our fan that we had from Twitch. Sometimes we've had people from Twitch and other shows that submit also pornographic things. So I always get worried when I see something from Twitch. But this person really added a lot of value and insights to the conversation. The whole thing about chivalry and being a gentleman. Please keep up that great work of chivalry and being a gentleman, because we do love it.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. Yes.
I think it's a wrap. Yes. I'm going to spotlight you and I'm going to find your banner. Tell us how we can reach you and tell us about RVN TV and what you're doing over there.
Oh, actually, we're going to have at RVN TV, I co-host a variety show called Morning Coffee on Wednesdays from 8 to 9 a.m. And on June 15th, we will be actually doing the show from the beach. So inside, we are going to have a beach morning coffee. There will be no bikini from this girl because my bikini days are over. However, sunglasses and a hat, maybe. And in the meantime, before then, I'm always available to discuss personal presence, which is an essential tool to a successful dating experience and business and personal relationships if you're already in one. But presenceintelligence.com/daters.
All righty. I love that idea of you on the beach with Mark and doing a broadcast from there. That's fabulous.
Yeah, they just asked yesterday, and I thought, okay, but I'm not wearing a bikini, just so you know. Yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, so we had sombreros and no tequila, though, not at 8 a.m. Tequila and coffee. No.
Yeah, if you start drinking at 8, please call me and I'll help you through that.
Oh, my God, I'll be napping within an hour. So,
yes. All right. Thank you, Lisa.
You're going to fill us in on the rest of your shows, right?
Yes, I am. So I'll let you go.
Okay.
And
see you later.
have bye. Wow, that was fabulous. I hope you enjoyed that show. Arlene gave us so much good information that we haven't had before. And Lisa, of course, is always a delight and always brings value to the program. I want to just announce the rest of the show. So tonight we have one more program that's starting in about 40 minutes, and it's A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And my guest today is Mariska Duprez, and she's joining us from New Zealand. She is my own personal coach. She is the person who helped me come up with a plan A, plan B, and C to leave my corporate job and do what I'm doing today. So I hope you'll tune in for that. We also have shows tomorrow. We have 6 shows. Let me just tell you what they are quickly. Starting at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which in the UK is 3:30 p.m., we have A Better You. And our guest is Philip Sykes, and he is from the British School of Etiquette. So I look forward to hearing what he has to say. At 12 o'clock Eastern Time, which is 5 p.m. British Summer Time, we have Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure with my co-host Diane Floyd-Bain, and our guest is Emma Porce. At 1:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 British Summer Time, we have I Have a Story to Tell. We will be joined by Esther Brzezinski at 3:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 British Summer Time. Pet Psychic Amina, and she is my co-host, but she will also be my guest tomorrow. We'll be interviewing her about her journey as a psychic. At 5 p.m., we have Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity, and my guest is Kay Reeve. And finally, to close out the week, the variety show, which is so much fun with my co-host, Lori Mendelson. Our guest is Karen Yuso. And we are delighted for all of you who are watching our show. We have a global audience now. We have 15 shows, 11 platforms. We continue to grow. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing to Dr. Jacalyn LLC on YouTube. And again, thank you for being here. I mentioned on an earlier show, today someone sent me an email. I didn't expect it. I was unaware of it. And the person said some wonderful things. They had watched a show where I was talking about some of my insecurities and just sent me this beautiful email. And so it really lifted me up. And I hope that you can do the same for other people and the same thing that I will do for others. With reference to that, I have one more announcement. I'm going to find my banner. I am raising money for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 1991. It is an incurable and chronic disease. It's also known as the bathroom disease. And it's not very pleasant. It's very painful. And I lived most of my life in shame and fear and humiliation. And it wasn't until 2018 when I found the Crohn's Colitis Foundation that I felt like I could talk about what I'd been living with. And then my focus has been on helping other people. So with my illness, I'm sick 3 to 6 months of every year. And as I mentioned, it's extremely painful. So I've decided to make it my mission to raise money and awareness to help other people to find cures. So young people in their 20s, even people who are in their 80s who are being diagnosed, it's really a horrible disease. So if you would help me by supporting the work that I'm doing, I am involved with several things for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation, 3 events every year. The Take Steps Walk, which is June 5th in Philadelphia. I've committed to raising $3,000, and I think I've raised 200 and something. I pretty much always hit my goal, but we're a little bit behind because I've been working so much. So if you would go to Facebook to my personal page, Jacalyn Kerbeck, there is a link there you can donate. The money goes directly to the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. It does not go to me, it goes directly to them. And the second event is the Spin for Cures event, which is toward the end of the year. And then the third event is the Evening of Hope Gala. And we are also looking for sponsors for that. We are fundraising for that as well. And you can go to Jacalyn Kerbeck on Facebook and make a donation there. If you're unable to go on Facebook, no worries. Just go to our website, drjacalyn.com, contact us, and I can send you the link that you can then go and donate directly to the foundation, and I will get credit for it. All right, there are all the announcements. I've got to do a quick wardrobe change and get ready for the next show. So thank you so much for being here. We will see you again soon, hopefully in 35 minutes. Bye.